What's going on, everybody? Tyler here with the Citizens Fireman Podcast, bringing you episode number 3 with our guest today, Raymen Dorival. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's a pleasure to have you on here. I've been looking forward to doing this episode for a while.
Uh, Thank you, sir.
So, for those of out there that may not be familiar with you or with your training company, any of your platforms, you don't care, give a little introduction of yourself.
Uh, Going on 16 years of service with Miami-Dade Fire Rescue. I work in a pretty busy battalion, Battalion 5, the 5th Battalion. We started a training engine operations class called The Way to Nozzle. We teach you multiple disciplines from the recruit training and stuff like that, but that's one of the things that actually draw me. I'm drawn to RIT, engine ops, truck work. So I'm open to all that stuff, man. I'm just open to teaching and sharing my mind with people and motivating
Spreading the good news with anybody that wants it.
anybody that want to get it.
I like how you said really kind of focused on some of the engine stuff because that doesn't seem like a very popular thing that a lot of people want to get out and train outside of the department on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we send a bunch of guys to classes all over the place, and the first thing that people want to jump on, it seems like they want to go to the truck classes. I know you said that you like training on that stuff too, but
Yeah.
it seems like some of the engine work can kind of get left in the dust. What kind of drew you to wanting to focus on that? And I mean, it's in the name, the way of the nozzle. You know, everybody says fire goes as the line goes. So, I mean, it's important, obviously. But what drew you to that?
What drew me to that was actually while I was in recruit training, I noticed that there was a lack of discipline for the nozzle operator and a lack of respect for that role. So, especially in my department, I could see it from junior members to senior members. They were not actually truly having respect for that role. So they lost the art. The art was being lost. So I had to paying tribute to that. I just mainly focused on engine operations. So from stretching, deploying lines, making it where you can actually, for small footprints, you can actually still deploy a line, understand what your working length is, how to move and flow for short distances. It's not truly a move and flow class, but we do show it because we know sometimes the room might not be someplace where you can actually do that at. So if the environment tells you to open up and move, and you have to move. But I really like engine ops. And plus, in my department, you actually have to be good at a lot of skills. So it's not just hose line operations or nozzleman operations. You have to be good at forcing doors. You have to be good at search, VS, throwing ladders. So, but this was something that I felt like, let me lock in on this.
And you said having to be good at all that in your department. Obviously, that's a staple, should be at least for any firefighter. Anybody that's truly has a passion for their job, they should be well versed in all tasks, in my
Facts.
opinion, at least. But coming from a large department like yours, is there something special about the way that y'all station apparatus or how you run that kind of forces your people to be disciplined in multiple roles like that?
Well, because we're such a large department, there's going to be areas that are incorporated or unincorporated, Dade County, that you won't generate the volume of calls or the same amount of calls based on what you have. So some persons lose a hold of that, so they stop training and they're undisciplined. So I mean, they specifically they stagger some units and they place them in certain spots because of, let's say, there's more warehouses here, more chemicals here, so they'll have hazmat units here or TRT units there, more highways. But again, all the truck companies, all the engine companies, you have to be skilled at everything because you never know what you're going to get. So if you show up, if you're on a rescue truck, you might be doing engine work. So
I like that. And I always like hearing those kind of opinions because, I mean, I come from a smaller department. We run 3 frontline apparatus, a battalion, and 2 engine companies. So your engines are just kind of catch all, do all
yeah,
for now. We're hoping to staff an aerial soon, hopefully. But it hasn't happened yet. So
yeah,
it's
we're
just up to the engines. But, you know, I've talked to some guys that work in some larger departments before, and that, you know, they may work on a truck, and you hear them, they make these real just snide comments, stuff like, oh, well, I've not touched a hose line in 6, 7 years. Like, man, that's
hmm
not something to brag about. That's a
yeah,
failure on you.
man.
That's a failure on whoever. That's a failure on your company, your department as a whole. Like, that's bad culture.
We do have some very disciplined officers that can kind of keep keep new battalion chiefs in line to make sure that they make them look good. So let's say they're on a ladder truck and the battalion chiefs want them to catch the hydrant, but they're on a ladder truck. You should be setting up for ladder operation regardless of your arrival. If you're third, you should just make room for them. So some spoken officers will say, hey, we should position ourselves here. And some smart engine company guys will also try to have the chief or make him look good and say some things that he might not be thinking of so they can actually go ahead and interject.
Makes sense. I wish a
Mm-hmm.
lot more people had that kind of thought process too.
Yeah, the chief has to be willing to take the information also, so to make
It's
sure
a
the scene
two-way
doesn't
street.
look
It
any.
doesn't work
Yeah.
just doesn't just go down. Everybody thinks that it just goes down, but I mean it should at least work
Mm-hmm.
both ways.
Yeah.
I know also kind of leading into what we were talking about earlier before we went online here about Dadgum coming up down in Texas. But I was pleasured had the opportunity to come travel and get to see one of your lectures over in North Carolina last year. And anybody that's kind of followed you on social media or gotten to come to any of those conferences, they can definitely see the passion in your lecture series. So what brought that passion on, and also kind of leading into your upcoming event down in Dadgum? I believe you said you were the master of ceremonies. It was.
Yeah, Master Sherwins. I guess that's a cool little title or something like the MC. So um passion for the craft was pretty awesome, man. When we went up over there, I've never been in North Carolina, but just speaking over there was pretty amazing. But yeah, I'm gonna speak at Dagum. They invite me back up. Those brothers are amazing, man. In San Antonio, Tom Hollick, Kevin Pfluger, Matt Bryan, Lugo. You got Lugo up there, Valdez. You got all these guys that are open to just for you to embrace them and training with them. It's going to be pretty awesome because they got a lot of Barrel the Oats guys coming. You got Noah Katz from Phoenix, Arizona. He's coming, and they put together a big group of just firemen that just want to just give back. These guys, I mean, in the text right here, they're talking about, man, I'll be there just to carry packs around, just to be around the brothers. It's really a family reunion, man. And so I'll be opening up as master ceremonies. The biggest point here is RIT. So with the RIT operations, and they're talking about the keynote speaker, which is Captain Steve DeRusso. He's actually he's a survivor, a near miss, man. His story is amazing. I can't wait to actually hear it in person, man. The way Kev describes it and the way I've been watching his videos and listening to some of the stuff that's on YouTube about his story is just it just pulls it right out of you, man. And there's some heavy hitters. You got Robert Maris and Basil Ibrahim that's going to be on that stage, man. I don't even belong on the stage with those guys, but just to open up and talk, and to hopefully just preach the gospel and hopefully I reach some people.
Well, I'm sure. Well, I'm sure it'll be real touching to a lot of people there. And a lot of the names that you threw out there, it seems like any time that those groups starting to getting together, especially, you're talking about Tom, Kevin, and especially all the guys with the Bears,
Yeah.
like you said, family reunion, like that was what brought me back into the fire department. I went down to Dalton, Georgia to the Bears of Oath class, the last one they had down there, the engine truck class. Unfortunately, I didn't get to stay for the third day for RIT, but never heard of them before. Some guy from our department found them on TikTok. I was like, "Hey man, they're having this training. It's like an hour and a half away from us. Like we need to try to go to this. This looks fun."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was an engineer at the time, and I've talked about it in a few other episodes that I've done in the past on here on the podcast. But I had fell out of love with the job. I wouldn't say necessarily fell out of love with it. I'll take that back. But I'd gotten really complacent. I'd gotten promoted to engineer. I hadn't trained on firefighter task in a long time. I was that guy who was like, man, I got promoted. All I need to worry about is getting the truck there and getting water.
Yeah.
Thought that I was just A plus when it come to firefighter skills. Got down there and that class kicked my ass.
You get humbled real quick, man.
I left on day one and I was like, man, I've got to do something. Like it's time to either kick it in high gear or figure out what's for me because this ain't it. And it kind of brought me back in love with the job, and also, I mean, the connections that I was able to make down there, and just the way they bring everybody in as family.
Mm-hmm.
Shane Bentley's one of the greatest guys in the fire service I've ever met.
Facts. Facts, man. Shane truly is the nucleus of all of this. I'm telling you, that guy is the heart of all of this, stemming from San Antonio to Georgia to Tennessee. He's the nucleus. He's the heart. He's the heart and soul, man. And you know, a lot of people back around his way don't give him too much respect, but truly and honestly, he deserves all of that. I don't meet a Don Sapp without a Shane Bentley. I don't go to Dalton Jordan without Shane Bentley. You know, I don't meet all the people that I've met without a Shane Bentley. So that
He's
brother
the one
man,
that's brought it all together.
I'm telling you, man, this guy has stretched his reach is crazy, and all he does is keep bringing people back together, just to just to make sure like-minded individuals, like-minded firemen are together spreading the gospel. So
Uh, Funny story about that actually, and I don't know if you remember it or not. I'm sure I told you while we were hanging out at the hotel back at North Carolina, but I was on my way up there, and it was like a 6-7 hour drive for us to get over to Passion for the Craft. And I was texting everybody that I could think of that may be there. And I text Shane. I was like, "Hey man, are you going to make it up for this?" And he told me he's going to spend some time with family, whatnot. And then the next thing he texted me, he was like, "Whenever you see Raymen," he was like, "I want you to go up and give him a big hug, tell him that I miss him and that I love him." And my buddy, he's actually my engineer on the truck
man,
that I went up with. I told him, and I was like, "Man, Shane is crazy as could be. Like, I don't know none of these guys. Like, I can't just go up and start talking to these guys like this." And like I said, I've not been going to like a lot of the big conferences for long, probably just 2-3 years now.
hmm
So, and that was one of the things I came back and talked to the guys at the department about. I was like, you got to understand, like, these people they're firemen too. Like they're just out spreading their passion for the job. But once we got up there and caught in between some lectures, I got a chance to talk with you. And as soon as I brought Shane up, it's like anybody who's made that connection with him, like it's
that's
instant.
it, man. It's instant. I'm telling you, he has a gift, man. He truly does. But man, it's unfortunate that what happened with him in his department. They don't. Some people don't see it the way we do. Um, they're threatened by that. I say my department. Some people feel threatened just by my voice, or just what I'm doing. I'm not even trying to hurt anybody. I'm just trying to spread a message. I feel like there are some words that I have to get out. I have to say it. I have to talk. I have to preach, and I have to train. I have to do these things. So some people are threatened by Shane Bentley just because of what he can do, his gift and his reach. So
And what you said about some people being threatened in your department, or just some people that have thoughts like that, especially, I've noticed once you kind of start reaching outside the own walls of your fire station or even
oh
outside of your
yeah,
own department, there's always going to be backlash from it.
oh
And
yeah,
yeah, I don't understand it. I probably never will, but I've tried to make people understand like there's so much more out there.
yeah. They
The fire
question your
service has
platform, yeah,
so
man.
much more to offer you than what you're getting. You could work for a jam up department. You could have just a roster full of rock stars. Probably, I doubt that any department has a roster full of them,
Yeah,
but you may be that guy. You may go to fires every day, come back and just train till you time to leave in the morning.
yeah.
But there's still something further out there that the fire service can offer you if you'll just get outside of your own department. And it seems like some people just that gives a black eye to them, and I don't understand it.
I tell you where it starts, man. It starts up top. So for the battalion chiefs, if they could set a standard, and from them being the standard, if they set that standard for a good example, we have the fourth battalion. The fourth battalion, we have a good chief, Chief de Blasi. He has set a standard. And so far, he has recruited officers that are willing to hold this standard and don't lower that. So now his officers have met his standard and are setting the standard. So now when the firefighters come, they have to meet their officer standards. The officer has to meet the chief standards. And that's how you establish that. So right now in the fourth battalion, I mean, it's going around a department where people are scared to even go to that battalion because you got some hard hitting, hard charging guys over there, man, and they're ready to get after it every day, you know. And that's what makes it great. So if you got a chief that's telling you this is my level, you got to match me or meet me or excel. That's where it starts. So why come if you can't even try to meet him where he's at, you know?
I love that. And the outreach too, kind of getting back onto that. Uh, and also with some of the guys you mentioned from Dadgum, I know you had an experience just recently. You got to travel down to Mexico. do
Yeah.
some training down there. How did that go?
I got there on one of their shirts, La Prima Lina. We actually, all of us are actually supposed to be learning Spanish because now the next time we go, we got to be ready. We had some translators and stuff, man, but every now and again, you want to. There was times like when I'm teaching, sometimes where I can get very passionate, and so I want to say some words to you that will encourage you, and I would tell the translator that, but I know that it's not being said in the same way, or in the same light,
That
or
passion's not
exactly,
translating through the
exactly.
translator.
It's not. So there was that was lost, but they could tell by my face or by my voice inflection, that okay, he's saying something that he really believes in. So I think that translated well. I mean, first, man, just for Kevin and Tom and to invite me over there was crazy. Like, and knowing those brothers from San Antonio, it's just been wild. So now it's a brotherhood now. So we truly have established something between us. It's a bond that probably won't be broken. And going over there to San Jose del Cabo, or San Jose, yeah, that's right. I think that's right. And meeting all those firemen was amazing, man. It was amazing. It was amazing. It was just what an experience that they get to bring us over here for us to teach them some things and just share it with them for for free, just to give it to them. And just they took care of us, man. It was like they just took care of us for everything, for the travel. I mean, they took us places, they fed us, man, and they want to invite us back. It's crazy. I
That's
still can't
awesome.
believe. Yeah, I still can't believe I got to teach outside of the country. Just teaching what I'm doing, what I love. So
That's huge. I kind of followed along a lot of the posts on social media
yeah,
with that trip coming up, and then once it was going on, and I saw some stuff on Facebook. I believe it was just a couple days after y'all had got back that some of the, I guess, the local area, they got to put some of the training that y'all come down there and
yeah,
spread to them. They actually got to put it into use just like that.
hmm yeah, man. Yeah, I have no bad things to say about that. I just feel blessed to have been invited, and for Kevin Tom to have me over there teaching with him.
What were some of the things that y'all got to go down there and teach during that conference?
Well, we got to teach obviously engine operations. So some base skills, flowing, having good body mechanics, getting a good position for flowing while you're flowing, and then actually, showing them some moving and flowing. If they had the opportunity to, if the environment told you it's untenable, you have to move and flow. Um, and also, the backup role. So, which is something that I do too, as far as the hill man. You got to pay respects to the hill man, or the backup position, the number two guy, the officer. So paying respects to that guy is very important. You got to preach about that position. So from all three rows. So they got to see that, put it in action, put it in, some of them liked certain things, some of them didn't, some of them took away everything that they can apply. We had some guys that were actually high speed from Tijuana, man. Some Tijuana guys were pretty high speed. I was impressed, you know. And it just even at the very end, they were just so appreciative of that. So, and we gave them RIT the last day, and we teach them the skills, and we were able to go ahead and demonstrate a RIT operation. I got the pleasure of being the down fireman, so they had to take me through some stuff, but they really appreciated the RIT. Yeah, Tom really does a great job teaching the RIT portion. So I can't wait for March again, just to bring that back up to teach with them for those 2 days.
Which I don't know much about, like the fire departments down there. I don't know much about like their operations. I don't follow much outside of the country, social media wise or anything like that. I probably should. It seems kind of interesting, but is there like is much of a cultural difference between the service, like American Fire Service, compared to what they're accustomed to there?
Yeah, so I mean, there's always going to be a cultural difference. I mean, they have the way that they do their own things. But I was at this. I went to the station, I think twice, and every time I got there, they were doing something. Like the last day I was over there, I remember I went back to the bay and they're doing their truck checkout. And while they're checking their truck out, they're doing training inside of it, which in the compartments going over stuff. And that was cool to see. And they're doing something in the bay. The first day I got there, they were doing something out back, going over their rope rescue equipment. And I couldn't understand what they were doing, but just seeing them doing that, everybody's actively training and still training. And I got to catch them in the bay, just chilling, having coffee. You know, like that's the same. That all that stuff translates, man. All that stuff translates. They're still doing the same stuff. They're
It's
still
just like you're in
training.
a station back home somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, back home, man. It was just like this is awesome to see. It's awesome to see, man. And they took appreciation for one how because we weren't just walking around saying do this, do that. We were doing it too. And that's a valuable thing if you're a teacher or an instructor that you can give a student is for the student to have appreciation by seeing you do the skill as well, by seeing you in gear as well. So that's if you do that, you show them, hey, I'm doing the same thing. I hope that you can accomplish said task. So
That goes for any instructor anywhere.
yeah.
No nobody likes the guy that it's July, it's 100 something degrees in the southeastern part of the United States, and he's got you out there in turnout gear and an air pack while he wears his shorts and t-shirt.
Man, what my brother Reginald McKnight, we had a conference we were teaching at last year, and then it started raining, like downpour, torrential downpour. And I look at him, I say, I guess we lost a day. He was like, no, we didn't. I mean, we trained in the rain for 2 hours. It was crazy. He's one of the guys that teaches with me in Orlando. He's the pretty much the he started the TIC program, which is Tactical Instructor Crew. That's what the Weight of Knowledge was under. His main motto is "You before me," and he is probably one of the hardest chargers I ever seen, man. If you ever get an opportunity to get him on the show, this guy will blow you away, man. He will blow you away. One of the things that we like as far as our cadre is built on is one of the students came into the classroom and asked who's in charge. You can't even tell who's in charge. That's how crazy that is. Just because we're so intertwined with each other, we're so good at working with each other. All of us look like leaders. All of us move like leaders. So you can't
Everybody's
really
on the
tell.
same
Everybody's on
page.
the same page. So you can't tell who's in charge. So I credit all of that to him, man, and his tutelage, man, and just him actually giving me everything he got and believing in me. So
That's great. I've never got a chance to talk with him. I've followed him on social media, but just some of the stuff that he posts on there too, I
yeah,
can definitely see
telling you,
exactly what you're
man,
talking about.
you'll be
Y'all
blown
just
away.
finished up Orlando too, didn't you? Or is that still
Yeah,
going on?
we just finished up Orlando, which was 2 amazing days, man. 2 amazing days, live fire. We had a captain who took the class, and he said he took this class. He thought it was just an engine operations class. He didn't know we're actually going into a live fire. And I told him, yeah, man. We burn all day. One thing we know about Orlando, the Orlando Fire Conference allows us to burn all day. So we always say, man, smoke showing at 6 a.m. We're cooking. We're going. And we take advantage of all that. So we push them through scenarios in the morning, and then afternoon they have their final scenario. So and they get to apply all their skills that they use, and it's a beautiful thing to see that smoke showing. And you can actually go and do a real life scenario where we have to do mock size ups and get up there and do the Lord's work.
I've definitely got to put that on my list to make it down to.
Yeah, facts. Yeah.
God, these list of conferences just keep growing and growing. I've got so many that I want to attend. I want to make it down the dadgum so bad I can't stand it. I wanted
Yeah,
to try to
man.
make it this year, but we're about to bring our second child in here in a couple months, so it's a little pushing a little late to time for me to be trying to go from Tennessee to Texas.
Yeah, they're not going anywhere. They'll be ready for you when you're ready.
I'm excited to get down there. I was texting, or not texting, I was messaging Kevin about it probably 5, 6 months ago. And, like we was talking about earlier, just anything that involves any of those guys, like there's so much passion around it. It draws
Hmm.
people in.
Man, I tell you, man, I'll sleep on a couch just to be around those guys. That's
That
it.
was, that was the thing that blew my mind is whenever I went to the class in Dalton, the first class we went to, it actually got stormed out. They had a real bad lightning storm down there, and we couldn't train in the tower. And I mean, if we can't get in there and run scenarios, they
Yeah.
can't give you the top quality of training that they have in mind, then they're not going to waste your time with it. So we ended up rescheduling and we came back. But the day that it got stormed out, we spent a couple hours training there, and I think it's Station 2 at Dalton.
Yeah, right next to the training
The
ground.
time, yeah,
Yeah.
we spent some time in there in the bay, training for a couple hours. They just kind of come up with some stuff off the top of their minds, working with some hose loads, things like that, and then sat around and just kind of talk shop with a group of probably 100 firemen sitting in the room. Just looked like a bunch of little kindergartners in there, just crisscross applesauce, while Shane stood in the middle and brought people up to talk to us. But one of the things they said was, he talked about how the instructors that they brought up, he was like, these guys aren't making money to be here. It's like some of them are sleeping on couches. They all came from across the country just to give you this opportunity. And I didn't know any of the guys then, didn't know Shane, and I was like, man, I was like, this this is just a show or whatever. And then once I came back and actually got to spend some days with those guys and train with them, I was like, no, he's right. Like
Hmm.
this is a group of people that I want to be around.
I'm telling you, man, you could feed off of them. Just the energy, and just listen. Just listening is important. So you know, you got a Don Sapp walking around. You got to take everything in. You know.
Uh, a funny story about that too is, so I don't know how, but like I'd completely forgotten that old fire department chore coats even existed. And when we were down there, there was an older guy walking around in an older rescue chore coat, and me and this guy that was
Uh,
with me was like, "Man, that is awesome! Like, I want one of those." So
yeah.
actually, when I got promoted to company officer, that was my gift to myself. Was I went and bought myself a chore coat
There you
from
go.
Fireman's Chore. But I was thinking, and it's probably just been like 2 months ago, and I was like, "Man, I cannot remember that guy's name." I was like, "I know he's a retired chief." And I was like, "But I cannot remember who he was." Ended up being Dennis Riley. And
Yeah.
I was like, how did I even let that leave me?
Yeah.
But it's just crazy that they're able to bring people from all over the country that have such a passion and the same mindset. And that's all I was talking about earlier, is getting outside of your own department. Like, you're not going to find that back home. You're not going to find
No,
that in
you're
your
not.
station.
You're
You know,
not,
you,
man.
when you go out and get that stuff, 100% you should be bringing it back and sharing it in every way that you can. But you're never going to be able to meet that same quality as getting all those guys together and putting in the days and the hours just running through it with them.
It's a lot. I mean, I got the flow order with Chief Riley in San Antonio, and I sat in one of his lectures in Georgia when I went up to MAFC. That guy is he doesn't act his age. I tell you what, he does not act his age, man, because he's a ball of energy, man. He's always going to be ready to tell you something that moves you. So I pay attention to dudes like that. Give them a chance. You got to listen up. So
That was one of the things I liked about Passion for the Craft too. That was the first lecture series I'd ever attended. Everything before that was just hot training, and the price for those 2 days was amazing. That's
you
why we
could
traveled
you
so
couldn't
far
you
for it.
couldn't beat it, man. You couldn't beat
Whenever
what he
I
was
found
offering.
it, and I was like, man, I was like, no way, this is $100. Like,
I
two
told
days,
Gary,
like,
I told Gary, you crazy, man.
I was reading just the instructor lineup sitting there down at headquarters, our station one, and I'm just sitting there reading through the instructor lineup and all the different lectures. And had before then, I'd never been to anybody that was a speaker there's class. Like I said, never been to a lecture series, anything before. But
Hmm.
most of them were people that I'd heard of, followed them on social media. I knew who you were, obviously knew who Bobby Eckert was, Mike Scotto, and I'm reading through it and I'm like, no way, like, that this is only $100. And I immediately just put the address in my phone trying to figure out how far away it was. And I'm lucky, I said earlier, I went up with the engineer on my truck, and he's actually my best friend from high school, so I've got it
Yeah,
made it work. But I was like, dude, it's like, you've got to go to this with me. It's like, we'll miss one day of work, but one of us will take vacation, the other can find a shift swap or something. And I mean, it was $100 we were going to pay out of pocket to go to it. So I went to the chief of the department, and all we asked for was a vehicle to drive over because it was like 7 hours away, and both of us driving F-250 and didn't think we'd quite make it that far without
Yeah.
going bankrupt or sitting on the side of the highway. And he was like, no, like, I'm not just giving you a vehicle. So the department ended up paying for everything for us to travel over there and go to it. But it was just
There
such
it
a
goes, man.
blast. And
Yeah.
I was kind of, like I said, I was excited, but at the same time, I kind of downplayed it going over. I was like, yeah, it's just lectures. It's just lectures. Like, we're not going over there and like putting any hands on anything. But now, like, I'll attend any lecture that I get the chance to, just because, like I said, how bad I downplayed any of it. Like, once I got over there,
Hmm.
every single speaker that came up from the time that you came on the first day in the morning to, I can't remember who the last one was. I think it
Kurt.
was Rob when he did. Well, Kurt ended up not being able to make it, so
Yeah.
Rob did the full 6 hours of Reading Smoke, I believe. That's what it ended up being. And every speaker that came up, I was just on the edge of the seat with my notepad, just
Taking notes.
scribing away.
I had taken off. They had put on a search class a few months before. I think it was in May, and man, that was probably one of the best search classes I've ever been a part of. They Gary had put me in the hoarder house, and man, that was pretty impressive class. Like
I've
the hoarder,
followed their search
yeah,
classes for a while. I've never
yeah,
got to
man,
go over and take one. It's definitely on my list to do. They actually came and taught a version of their search in Tennessee for the Moeller conference that we
yeah,
did last July up in Pigeon Forge, but I was teaching with a Black Flag at that conference, so I wasn't able to take any of their classes. But it seems like any of their hands-on training they put on too is
yeah,
just
man.
huge.
I
Like they
got to
said
meet
over
some
there,
legit, yeah, got to meet some legit dudes over there, man. It was pretty good.
there's just so many different, like I said, conferences and training companies and everybody out there. And I won't even say training companies because I feel like that starts tying money into it, but just training groups that they're spreading so much good stuff that there's not enough time to grasp all of it. Like, I could make a full time job out of just traveling and just
Yeah,
taking these classes and listening to people.
yeah, you can, man. I don't know if you make money, but um, and your family. So something important as far as it relates to like going to conferences and doing what you do. So just keep your family first, man, and always remember where it started. So it starts at home. So always bring it back home. So if you keep that in mind, if you could travel with them, travel with them. There's not going to be a lot of opportunities to travel with them, but just keep them the first thing. So
100%. And like I said, that's one of the reasons why I've kind of had to pull the reins back on it here lately, because my son will be born here in a couple months. So kind of trying to take a break and just spend some time here at home
yeah, and
between
there's
work
little
and just
conferences and
being at the
seminars
house.
online. So
Absolutely. Uh, Blue collar fireman.
mhm.
I don't know if you're aware with the new app and webpage that he's created, but it's like a $10 a month subscription,
Uh-huh.
and all it is different trainings. He'll have different instructors come on, and it's usually be anywhere from an hour to like 2 hours. And you can either sit in on it live or it automatically uploads it afterwards, so you can go back and watch any of them. So there's like you said, you don't have to necessarily travel. It's
Yeah,
always great to get out and go see different departments, meet new people, but the opportunity's there both
it's
ways.
there. Yeah, and you could once you see it on there, you won't have the instruction from the instructor, but you can actually just go into bed, put your gear on, and try to apply those skills. So
Is I subscribed to it whenever he first came out with it, and I can't remember the instructors that uh, had done the little seminar, but I got to go back, and the first one I did was on search, and it was some of the guys from the rescue survey, and it was like 2 hours long, and
mhm.
just the quality of training that you can get just from things like that is it's insane. Like, technology has both cursed us and blessed us in the fire service.
Man, that rescue survey, that thing is very intimidating when you start reading and getting all those percentages and the numbers. It's just like, wow, like little things you don't even pay attention to. You know what I mean? Like how much of this is an impact, or seeing them with your eyes versus them hearing you with your voice. And the percentages blew me away, man. I get into that stuff. I like going over it. Like since we're doing the RIT stuff coming up, have been going over it lately a lot, just reviewing all the numbers and the stats. I know Rob's gonna touch it when he opens up for his lecture. I know Basil's gonna touch it. So just making sure I'm ready for their language, and that's what they speak as far as RIT. So, and I get real passionate about RIT, man. I told you I love RIT. There's something else I do love is RIT, because it's we know we signed up for them, but this one's for us. So and that's why it got to be the first thing. You got to make this matter. So you got to keep yourself at a certain level. Your discipline, your physical fitness has to be ready to save you, my brother. You know what I mean? So we got to be ready to come after you, but we have to hone in on our training. So hopefully, when I do my speech, and I give my that's really what I'm targeting. I'm targeting us to make sure I can actually, if I could get inside of your mind and see if I can trigger something and make sure you know where you got to be at. Um, Not even saying that I'm not the standard, but I do know what it requires to save one of our own. It's more than your body, your makeup. It's what's inside of here. So it's going to take that too.
It's deep. It gets a lot deeper than what
Hey,
people think
hey,
it is.
grit is deep, man. It is deep. So
And it seems like it's the task on the fire ground that everybody hates when they show up, and that's what their unit's assigned to.
yeah,
But it is what it is. And you know, Rob, you brought him up. One of the recent episodes of a podcast that he did with Tailboard Misfits. Just a
hmm
super simple line from his episode on there. He said, "If I get assigned to RIT, I'm gonna RIT like a motherfucker." And I
yeah.
was like, "Yeah," and I like that just hit so hard with me. It's like whatever it is, like you got a job to do. Like put your all into it.
One of Rob's lines is, "If you can't truck, you can't rid." So you got to know how to do both things. I mean, you have to be able to apply certain skills if you want to be able to perform the task of red. So you got to know how to truck. You got to know truck work and what you're doing. So I love it.
RIT's one of the things that we've kind of been hitting on here lately, kind of training just on my truck and across our shift. Because actually, I got the opportunity. I had Hank Kinlan on here uh, last episode. I don't know if you're aware with his latest creation, the Hasty Rescue
I
Strap.
was just about I was just about to say I spoke to him on we were just chatting, and he was
He
talking about the hasty strap. I was using it at work. This kid has it. I guess he made some upgrades to it, but we used it at work the other day.
he I talked to him for a while before the podcast was even a thing, but was lucky enough to have him on here last episode, and he sent me one of his straps. And once we got out and started putting hands on with it, a lot of people started asking, well, this is just pretty much just a ratchet strap with handles, or everybody had something to say. But
Yeah.
once we actually started using it, especially when it come to its hoisting capabilities, having
hmm
the being able to rig it quickly, drag with it, and then once you get to where you need to hoist, not having to make any changes, just load and go.
Yeah.
It's a To me, I mean, it was a jam up creation. That was a game changer.
To be
There's a
able
lot of
to,
things out there that are similar to it, but there's
yeah,
nothing
not
that
the
I've put
same.
hands on that meets its level of capabilities.
So the biggest thing for me for this, it is another tool, but being able to go vertical with the down fireman while he's strapped in is a big deal. So because you can lose him, like if you got webbing, the webbing's not rated for something like that, or as far as unless you package him right. So you have to do all that stuff with the webbing and package him right correctly, get all that stuff going. Your DRD is not rated for that. The straps on your breathing apparatus is not rated for that. So he actually has something good that he got going, man. So be able to go vertical with that thing. I did ask him about the ratings. I know this is an official. I don't want to get in trouble either by him, but he did give me an unofficial ratings. He said the webbing is rated for 4,000 pounds. So that's vertical, 4,000. That's a lot. And then the buckle itself is rated for 1,500. But I mean, there's going to be firemen who find, and again, that's unofficial. So there's going to be firemen who find failures within it, but that's good. That's why you got to give him the feedback. So I'm a believer in the hasty harness. I haven't purchased it myself, but we had some probies that got it, was able to use it, and I am a believer in that. Um, I like it.
That's what we took it out and we ran through a Columbus drill with it was the number one thing that we got to work with. And we've done some drills similar to that, before in the past without it. And the amount of time that it shaves off is crazy. Before it seemed like the Columbus drill, Denver drill, like all these RIT drills that you can come up with
Yeah,
that are, and they're all scenario based. So it's not
yeah,
like you're throwing something at someone that's like, well, we're just going to make this hard just because. Like, no, these drills are made in blood. A
yeah.
brother or sister in the fire service has died, and this drill is what happened to them. This is why we're training on it.
Facts.
And, it seems like RIT drills are the hardest out there for some people. They're the ones that make you put in the most physical effort. They're mentally demanding. And just the amount of ease that it put into that drill, it took something that the day that we went out and tried it out, I was expecting it to be an all day thing. It's like I prepared, came in, told the guys, like, once we get to the tower, prepared to be out there all day.
Mm-hmm.
Like 2.5 hours later, we're standing around staring at each other like, well, what now? It's like, well, we ran the first drill with it and we were just kind of walking.
Mm-hmm.
And then we started sending people through scenarios, and something that before, it may be a 10-15 minute scenario, we're cutting down and we're sub 5 minutes on it of getting them up at least to the next floor.
Yeah.
And we're like, man, I was expecting this to take a lot longer. What are we going to do? But that's a good thing.
It is, man, because it works so well. Do you still do the redundancy as far as your pack conversion and stuff like that? Since it's already there, do you still actually, we train for redundant? That's how we do everything is a redundant system. So
Mhm.
do you still package them with the hasty harness and you still do the pack conversion, or you don't?
Just the hasty harness is the way that we
Okay,
trained it.
all right.
And because that was once I talked to him, and I've followed all of his videos, different drills that they've ran, and we didn't run into any kind of problems with it. Just going one strap, taking it down like you were converting a harness, just through the leg, back up to those straps, cinching it, and it drug just fine, hoisted amazing, had no problems. So we didn't really throw anything else into it because we were shooting for time and efficiency on the drills.
Rob
And
Ramirez came down one time and just for free. This guy came down for free and taught like eight of us, like eight or something instructors. And just he's one of those guys where what's in your pockets is like, yeah, you got to ask this guy what's in your pocket because he's going to tell you exactly why he has this here, why he has this there, why his radio is positioned a certain way. He'll pull out his cutters. It has glow in the dark wrap on it, straps on it, and it's awesome to see something like that because sometimes you don't know. So that's one of those drills that I never take for granted, man. I never take that for granted. What do you have in your pocket? And it might be a junior guy that brings something out. You're like, damn, I should have that in my pocket. And that's where it comes in relation to RIT. So some important things that you should have in there and some things that just might be added weight. So,
one of the things, not even just in your pockets, one of the things that I've been talking about is actually putting in a budget request. It seems like, at least for a lot of departments in my area, we carry Scott Air Packs is kind of the going thing around here. So we've got the big orange Scott Rit Packs, and they've got all the different pockets on the sides of them.
oh, yeah.
They're empty. There's
Oh,
nothing
really?
in them. It's the Rit Pack the way it came. It's got the bottle. It's got the mask, but aside from once it's assembled coming out of the package, nothing's ever added to them. And that was the first thing that came to my mind once I saw the Hasty Rescue Strap. It's like, man, these things are like they're
Should
like
go in there.
$100 a piece,
Yeah.
especially for say a department my size. Two engines, you've got two RIT packs front line. $200. If you never use it, great. If you need to use it, you spent $200 and you made
Mm-hmm.
somebody's job a whole lot simpler, and hopefully you changed the potential outcome of how things went with that scenario over just spending a couple $100 and stuffing it down in the side of the pocket of that rip pack.
And take that webbing out of there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what you talking about. You can rig up different things with webbing, but especially for hoisting or any kind of lifting, like how you've got certain ways you're gonna have to rig it, tie it. That's one of the things I don't think a lot of people understand about RIT, and that was some of the questions that I started getting when we were training with the HRS on shift. And not down on anybody, I love questions like you should ask them. But once the question started coming out of like, oh well, I've got this piece of rope in my pocket, or I've got this piece of webbing, like how long is it going to take you to be able to effectively rig that to where you can actually use it?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we talked about in the episode with Hank was, he built this based off of a LODD that his department had, and the conditions that the RIT team was faced with when they tried to rescue him.
Mm.
We are talking high heat, low visibility, the worst of worst when it comes to conditions. So how much easier is something that it's a clip, cinch, and go
Yep.
compared to finding the weapon in your pocket, tying knots with big bulky fire gloves on? Because I'm sure everybody remembers sitting in the fire academy, probably the first time that you did knots, and finally they were like, all right, now we're going to put your fire gloves on and we're going to do it in the dark. I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God, that was the worst part of the academy. Okay, well, now imagine doing that when somebody that you work with every day, their family, you eat supper with them, you live with this person,
Uh,
their life depends on you doing that. So now throw that mental aspect into something that's already physically demanding. So I don't see how it's not a win to have these products like that. And, whether it be the Hasty Rescue Strap or anything that anybody's putting on the market out there, if it makes the job easier, it makes the job easier.
yeah, facts. And you got to know the capabilities of what's on your person. Like we was in Orlando one year, and Basil Ibrahim he took time from his class and showed us. We have our SCBA bottles, the Scott packs, and all we were training on was pretty much the pack conversion. So we don't take the buckle out, we buckle them up, and we go. But after he showed me that the failure in the buckle, it was like, damn, that's crazy. The buckle is not what's like you could tap that thing real quick, the buckle's gonna give, pack comes off. Now you gotta reset, think about another plan. So with the HD harness is a good deal. And I mean, it's gonna be incredible in Dagon, man. I have to say because this is actually just bringing it right back up because we got two heavy hitters in RIT that's really gonna bring it home, and their passion level is just different. So it's a different. Once they receive Steve DeRusso's message, and these two heavy hitters come on and give them the why behind what we do, and then we hit the grounds rolling with Tom when he breaks out into those RIT stations. It's gonna be quite a week, man, for those four days.
This is going to be awesome. I'm
It is,
jealous that
yeah.
I'm going to miss it.
I'm telling you, it's gonna be amazing.
Like I said, I've got to make it down to it. I have to. That's a bucket list conference for sure.
Yeah, yeah, man.
Yeah, I think
So,
I would rather go attend stuff like that or Orlando than to go to FDIC.
man, you got to come and check us out in Orlando, man, because I'll tell you what. Um, the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway that I always tell the students is that what we're about to teach you is nothing new. The fire service has been teaching itself this, or instructors have been teaching this for years, from the inception of the fire service. From not having SCBA bottles and them have to make an aggressive push so they keep the nozzle open. From spoonboard nozzles being the first nozzle for the fire department until the 50s where they got fog nozzles and we actually had a brain fart. We forgot where we came from. So spoonboard nozzle applications, water applications, and UL being an extreme knowledge base for us, giving us knowledge which becomes a tool so we can now apply it inside of a structure. So those stuff that we preach these things to our students, but you got to think as a realm of an instructor, how are you preaching these things? So from all all the instructors in my cadre, from Reginald Knight, from Michelle Alvarado to George Cabaz, Eric Gonzalez, we actually do this because we truly care about the student and what they're getting. So you come and you take the weight of nozzle, man. You take the weight of nozzle. There's going to be something you can find inside of the class that we teach that you're going to take back. I guarantee you. I guarantee you. It might be something that you've seen, something that you've done, but we're going to say something that's going to trigger something you never thought about it. And if you did, we're going to put it in a way where you actually still can apply it, still going to repeat those same words, which is what you want. So you can't be a knowledge hoarder or a hoarder of information, because that doesn't help anyone. So you got to
No.
keep giving it back, man. So yeah, you
And
come down. I'm gonna take care of you, man. You come down, man, and you come see
I've
us
got
in
to make it
Orlando.
down. And hopefully, which I actually met my wife through the volunteer fire department, so she's not as active as she used to be anymore now that we have kids. But
Yeah,
maybe I can pitch to her, taking her to her first fire conference and
yeah,
making a
man.
little mini vacation out of it.
There's some incredible classes over there too, man. Right next to me is One Bad Day, so that's Basil's class. You take that class. That's you can have you be working your ass off when you take One Bad Day. They got the Can Confidence class. There's a lot of classes over there that you got to take, man. Um, and one of the things I've actually read just recently, so even though you're instructing, you still got to be in that student realm. So I still go to conferences and I still take classes. There's still so much for me to learn and still apply, Um, especially I'm still teaching in this realm that I'm teaching with engine operations. There's still a lot of things that I need to learn. So
Well, that was something, and uh, I actually noticed when we were at Passion for the Craft. You opened the conference up, you and kicked it off in huge fashion. I don't know anybody that could have sat through that first lecture there and not been motivated from the get go. Uh, Actually, was I believe it was referred to as the David Goggins of the structural
nah,
fire service. But one thing that I noticed is immediately after you got done with your lecture, when you came out and was sitting up there on the front row, is you immediately broke out your notebook too
yeah,
and sat there through the lectures and immediately turned straight student
got
there
to.
to gain anything that you can, and that's huge. And not just as an instructor, because you may pick up something from someone that you can give to your next round of students that you have come through a class, but also at the same time, like I said earlier, everybody's still firemen,
Facts.
so you're still reaching out trying to gain knowledge of what you're going to take back. Just because you're in that instructor role doesn't mean that you're that knows all sees all. You've always got that next level to achieve for, always got something else to learn.
Have you read Corley's book,
I have not. I want
the
to. It's on.
the
It's
Nine
actually
Ounce?
it's on one of my Amazon wish list.
So I got my notes here. So one of the things that he talks about there, because now you see that leadership book is making its way to like lieutenant and officer exams. He says teaching the hard skills comes easy, but have a tough time with the soft skills, interpersonal skills, emotional skills. Those abilities are hard, and that, you know what, man, that brings it into full circle, because we got a lot of our brothers suffering through alcohol, drug addiction, spousal stuff, and they become consuming. People really don't. People think that we just do this job and we just go. But there's things that we see, things that we see that we can't get rid of them. Like in my mind, I always talk about this one call, this one kid that drowned, and we worked them for like an hour. Why do we do that? Why do we do that? We know already the brain loses function. I mean, that's an hour, but why do we do that?
That's that
It's
gets back. That's not something that you want to admit. I mean, you're human
exactly,
at the end
man.
of the day, and you're gonna have those. And I don't want to say that one life's more precious than the other, but you said that that any other time, you go down the road on the middle of the run. I'm sure every jurisdiction in America has one now, to where it's a OD heaven
Yeah,
or
man.
whatever it may be. You go down there and it's a fentanyl overdose, and you work them for the 10-15 minutes, and you're like, all right, let's call it. But you're going to have those calls that stick out to you, and you're not that superhero that everybody wants to
Nah,
think
man.
that you are. It's gonna affect you later on.
Man, I remember one of my brother firefighters in the firehouse. I know his demeanor. I know how he acts. And just one day he was off. Then a couple of days he was just off. This was not the same person. We got to be willing to have those hard conversations, man. Are you all right? Are you okay? Call him up. Do you need help? Check on that brother, man. He might really need you. And that one phone call, that one "Are you all right?" lets him know that he at least knows that he's still got somebody checking in on him, saying, "Hey, man, I'm here." You know what I mean? And that's important, man. Just wanted to make sure I get that off because we do got programs out there like Next Rung and other programs that are willing. They're there waiting for you to call for them to check on you. So, brother, if there's somebody on this podcast that needs help, I'm always a conversation away, man. You can find me. Just hit me up.
100%. There's a multitude of people out there that, like we talked about earlier, you meet these people, you make the connections, you realize that it's a family. And, I could sit here and rattle off names for hours of people that I wouldn't
Facts,
hesitate
yeah.
to reach out to anytime
Yeah,
over
man.
stuff like that. So, like you said, if there's anybody out there that needs that, I mean, it's always there.
I mean, there's a recent one with Nate Sturm on there, and he's just telling it all, you know. Also, my brother Scott Sanders, man, he's over there in Georgia too. That brother there, man, he just we were meant to be brothers, man. He just reach out of nowhere, man. He's just checking on you. Just, dude, I would have never met these people, but just doing this, doing what I love, and preaching, has given me the opportunity to meet all these individuals, special people like you, that branch out, that share messages, that share and extend even more. How far will your reach be? You know, how far will your reach be? Who can you, and just grab a hold of and make sure they can change the world? Let them know they can change the world.
Absolutely.
So
Like I've said multiple times, getting outside of your own fire hall. We were talking about this just at work the other day, just social media, podcast platforms, things like that in general.
yeah,
And we were talking about the different connections that you make just between those. Take not even traveling just for training, but the amazing people that you reach just through doing this right here. It's crazy. One of the my department does company level inspections, and so most of us are state fire inspectors, unfortunately. But we travel to inspector conferences for CEUs, and one word that inspectors love to use is networking. Everybody wants to get together, and I just guarantee you, any inspector conference you find is probably going to have some kind of little bash get together
oh
at
yeah,
some point in time during the conference. There's probably going to be an open bar, and it's just going to be a bunch of inspectors and fire marshals and poor souls that have to do company level fire inspections. And all they want to do is get together and talk about, well, have you ever had this in your jurisdiction? Or just gaining knowledge from other people
hmm
that they never would have gotten inside their own department. But then you come back over to the suppression side of things, and the guys that are riding the rigs, they're running the calls, and you don't hear much of that. You don't hear them wanting to get out and go network with people from
yeah,
other departments, travel and meet people and learn how they operate. And I think that it should be so much more substantial for us riding the fire engine to get out and get to these other places, go to these conferences, talk to people from the smallest departments you can find to the biggest departments you can find, because you're going to take away something from everybody that you can bring back home and put into play. Promise you.
facts, yeah,
There's somebody out there that they may operate the exact same way you do, maybe a mirror of your department, but they've probably gained something along the lines that's going to help you on your next run. So go out there and get that and bring it back to your guys at work.
facts. Preach, brother.
But before we end up getting too much more into it, I want to start wrapping up here. I don't know if most firemen are like me, but my attention span whenever I'm listening to podcasts, things like that, it don't run on too long. Anything much more than an hour, and I can start drowning out. So if you don't care, let people know where they can find you, your pages at. I'm sure there's a bunch of people, if they're not already, they've listened to this, they're going to want to hop over and
Yeah, you can
start seeing
find me
some
at
of
the
the
Way to
stuff you're
Nozzle
spreading.
on Facebook, the Way to Nozzle, Instagram, the Way to Nozzle, or I mean, it might be an underscore there, but just put the Way to Nozzle in there, you'll find it. Raymen Dorival. You can put the way to nozzle at gmail.com and hit me up. Again, if you need anything, any advice, just somebody to talk to, you can always reach out to me. I will answer them. I'll do the best I can. Um, Again, catch us at Dadgum, man. Dadgum 24, I believe. We'll be there 321 through 324. And we training. There's still some tickets left. So go to the Dadgum Rit site. You can click on their page. You could find it online and check us out there. I'll be there too, man. I hope you can catch that message I'm trying to drop, but just send me and just hope to bring the passion, man.
That's awesome. Well, y'all heard him. Reach out, follow his social media if you get a chance to get out any of these conferences, especially get a chance to listen to one of Raymond's lecture series. You got to get on it. I don't know if there's anybody I've met in the fire service that can get you more fired up and motivated than just
I
listening to him
appreciate
speak
it.
for a few minutes.
I
Even
appreciate
just
that, man.
finding some of the videos of you down there in the academy in Miami-Dade,
Yeah,
just the way that you just instill that passion into the recruits, everybody that you meet, just it's insane, man. You're
thank
doing
you.
something right.
I appreciate that, brother.
All right, well, thank y'all for tuning in, and stay tuned for episode 4 next week.